Hi, this video is about recreation, walnuts, and the anticipation of recreation. It's going to cover foraging, immigrants, and summer vacation. Hopefully by the end that all makes sense. This probably all started in the fall of 2021 when I decided I'm going to start riding my bike to work. It's maybe a 6 mile trek. It's not a big deal. But it was through a park, a rather large park, and I was going to use this trail, not a very well used trail, um, to get where I needed to go through the park. And on that trip, there were these, it was already like not a great trail, but there were these greenish yellow fruits that must have dropped from the trees that were sort of between the size of a golf ball and a tennis ball. And the color was sort of like a greenish tennis ball. Anyway, they were really hard when you ran over them, so they would actually, divert the tire, and they were a little risky to drive over, so a little bit of a hazard and kind of annoying. And because I was going to work or coming home, I never really bothered to figure out what they were until one day I saw that a rather low-hanging branch had one of them attached to it with leaves. So I had some time, I think it was a Friday. I took my phone out, I used a Google image search to figure out what it was, and it turns out it's a black walnut. Okay, that's interesting. So I picked a few up off the ground and took them home. Black walnut, by the way, is the kind of walnut that America has. Apparently they were everywhere. It was really common to harvest them. I think there was an industry that used them as well. But I think the English walnut is larger and easier to process, easier to crack open, easier to get large pieces from. But I hear the black walnut's very interesting to taste. Anyway, I took 3 home, prepped them by tearing off this, think of like an orange peel, but a lot thicker and kind of rough and sticky. Your hands kind of turn black after you use them. Let me check my notes here. So anyway, I did this all with no research. I just took them off and I cracked them open. I removed the nut meat, and then I realized, oh, they have to dry. That's when I did my research. I just wasn't thinking. So I left them on the kitchen countertop to dry, and someone threw them out like a week later. So I never got a chance to use them. Anyway, as time went on, my hip started to hurt. I can no longer see them on the ground anymore, and I no longer took that trail. My hip was too far gone to really ride the bike reliably. So that was it. It was done. Until 4 years later, I was walking with a friend of mine in a park, and a different park, by the way. And there on the ground are 5 more of these walnuts. By now, I could recognize them. So I pick them up and I take them home. This time I do a little research. I go to a few different sites, but one of them that you really should check out is Black Forager. She's just super entertaining, very knowledgeable, really worth checking out. So I check it out, and you're supposed to take the husk off. By the way, the walnut is not a fruit. It's technically a drupe, which is something different. Anyway, so you take them when they're sort of like blackish and spotted, and you just right there outside remove the husk. You really shouldn't take them home, but I did. And then you wash them off, and then you dry them, right? I put them on top of my toaster oven, and there they sat, for months. So I waited. And now to simulate that waiting, let me go into the past and tell you a story. My mom accidentally got me involved in foraging. And the way she did that is we used to take trips to visit family in Long Island. And it was about an hour, 20 minutes, an hour and a half away. Pretty long trip. And the expressway would have these long stretches of riding through relatively green area on the sides. And she would point out people with bags, plastic bags, brown bags, probably brown bags at the time. I was talking 40 years ago. And they were older people, middle-aged adults, even sometimes kids. And they were generally stooping over, picking, different sorts of vegetation off the ground, maybe off of branches. I don't remember that clearly. And she told me a couple of things that were interesting. She said, "Oh, those are Italians." I don't know how she knew they were Italian. They didn't have flags or anything like that. And she said, "They're picking dandelions." I'm a kid. I just say, "Okay, this is a fact a mother told me," and I kind of stored it away for later. Anyway, years later, decades later, actually, when I started gardening, the spot where I chose to have my vegetable garden had stinging nettles. I didn't know what they were. All I knew is if you brushed up against it with bare skin, you actually felt this stinging, burning sensation. And it doesn't take much. They were annoying. So I dealt with them, with gloves, just pulling them up, and they came back every year. So I was trying to figure out how to get rid of them, all permanent like. And that's when I found out that you could eat them. You could actually do a few things with them, but you could eat them. You can make rope from them, you can make clothing from them, and you could eat them. And I think some cultures, I don't know, maybe it's Sweden, somewhere around there, I think they actually anticipate the spring, and they go out and they pick them when they're young, because apparently they don't sting when they're very young. Anyway, so I got turned on to foraging from this story from my mom and from this research into weeding or dealing with stinging nettles. And this video is a long time in coming. So back to them being Italians, who knows, right? But I'll tell you this, as I was doing my research, we're not that far removed from foraging. In the early days of this country, it was sort of a normal thing. You go out and you get some greens. It's available, it's free, it's easy, and there you go. People in the old country, especially if they lived through World War II or they knew someone who lived through World War II, there were times when food was scarce and you had to go back to relying on foraging to supplement your food intake. It was a real deal. And it's kind of like a beautiful thing to get free food. It really is. Of course, there are all sorts of problems like trespassing. I do it on my own little property. You could get permission. You have to worry about pesticide. There's all sorts of things. And actually, foraging in general can be extremely dangerous. I do judo, and I'll tell you, foraging could kill you. I don't know of anybody who's died from foraging, but you hear about it all the time. Someone eating something that they thought was okay and wasn't. So if you do decide to get interested in foraging, and that's not really the point of this video, believe it or not, but if you do, make sure that you double check, triple check, quadruple check, quintuple check. And if you can, find someone who knows what they're doing to help you identify the plants and prepare them. All right. And if you do, even then, you take a small taste, see how things go, and then maybe try it again tomorrow. All right. Because, like I say, it can be very dangerous, but it's fun. All right. Moving on. So after I did this and I prepped these black walnuts, again, these 5 black walnuts, I was like, oh, I have a YouTube channel. I should have shown all of this, which I didn't. So I went back with my friend to the park. Now, this was a few weeks later. We had had a snowfall. All the leaves had fallen. And we looked around. We had no luck. We didn't find anything. Couldn't even find any fallen walnut leaves, which are kind of hard to identify on their own, I think, at least for me. But we did find parsley. Okay, reenactment. My friend Rob spots parsley. And then a quick Google search shows...
Is parsley part of the hemlock family?
The plant family is hemlock, which is called Apiaceae, or the carrot family. However, while parsley is safe to eat, hemlock, especially poison hemlock, is very toxic. So it's important to know the differences between them.
No, we did not find parsley. We found hemlock, all right, which is poisonous and could kill you, which goes back to the point I made earlier. So anyway, we did avoid death. And then my friend says, you know, I have a black walnut tree in the backyard. Thanks for telling me. Actually, I had known that, but he didn't mention it because we were just going for a walk like we normally do. So we go to his backyard and we check that out. But again, all we managed to find were the remnants that the squirrels left. So we did find actual walnuts, but they were cracked open and very thoroughly cleaned out. I don't know if the squirrels managed to do it with the little tiny squirrel hands, or if it's a combination of squirrels, other rodents, and insects, but they were picked absolutely clean. So that was that. I also found out that you're supposed to check the walnuts by dunking them in water. If they float, you know, something happened and there's nothing inside anyway. They're hollow. So I had one floater. Okay. One thing I did do is from time to time, and like I said, I kept them on top of my toaster oven. I would come by and I would shake them, because if you could shake them and you hear a rattle, then supposedly that means that they are dry enough to then be shelf stable and eaten, and they could last a really, really long time. But I kept shaking them, and not hearing anything. So now's the time to taste it. Oops. Here they are. Once again, I forgot to actually have the product with me. So here they are. Can you see them? Just take them out. These are black walnuts. You can see why they got their name. And this is a nutcracker that I remember from my childhood. So this thing is like 50 years old. Quite sturdy. So here we go. This is the floater. I'm going to start with that. Sorry I didn't set up a camera to... Wow, these are tough. Unbelievable. Now, I could actually crack 2 English walnuts. If I hold two English walnuts in my hand, I could crack them like that. But these are extraordinarily dense. I swear I'm not this weak. Let's try another one. Wow, this is crazy. I'm getting a hammer. What the hell? Okay, I could not believe how difficult that was. But I finally cracked one open. Sorry I didn't show it on camera, but the actual process of cracking it open. But I didn't want to put it on any sort of surface. I didn't want to damage the surface. That's how hard it was. So here are the pieces of it. I don't know if this is going to show or not. And there are pieces of walnut meat. I could see why people say these are hard to process. Let's see what it tastes like. I mean, it looks like a regular walnut. I don't have a full piece to compare it to. Wow, this stuff is so tough. Like, you know, a regular walnut, like once you break it, you can pull the pieces across. But these are so, like the interior walls are so thick. I mean, it's a thick piece of wood, and you really have to swing that hammer hard to break it open. I could see why the English walnut is more popular. I think you could buy these, and they're really expensive. I guess that's why. Anyway, let's taste it. It's supposed to taste different. This is a small amount, so if for some reason this isn't a black walnut and I am 99.9% sure that it is, I don't think this small amount would kill me. It does taste like a walnut. And I don't know if I read this somewhere or if this is my actual impression, but it has a sort of a buttery quality to it as opposed to a regular walnut. Anyway, so that's that. Getting back to the point of the video and tying this into recreation, this isn't over. I've anticipated tasting black walnuts for a long time, and now I'm anticipating next fall where I'm going to get ahead of it and hopefully check them out before they actually drop, or get there soon after they drop so I can compete with the squirrels. Not that I'm going to harvest like 20 pounds of it or anything like that. I'm just going to harvest a little bit more and see what it's like. So I'll probably set reminders for myself in the first week of September and maybe the third week of September and then early October. And before that, I'll do some research because maybe that's not the exact time to do it anyway. But the anticipation, that's what I want to talk about. Do you remember summer vacation when you were a kid? I don't know about you, but you start kind of thinking about it, or at least I did, in May. Or maybe even late April. And you're thinking about it, all the things you're going to do with your friends. Or maybe you take a trip with your family. Or just get up late, and not have to go into school. You start dreaming about it. And for me, in May, that's when it really starts to hit. Now, in New York, summer vacation is July and August. For the kids. But so in May, I started thinking about it. And in June, it was so close. You could just taste it. And then summer vacation was there. And it was great. It was fun. It was everything you thought it would be. You tried to make the best out of every day. You check in with your friends and family. What are we going to do today? It was fantastic. But then around the midpoint, especially for me, that feeling of dread when you're at that halfway point where it's going to end, and then you have this sense of urgency to make the most out of the vacation while it's still there, you start to experience that dread, and that kind of takes away, which makes me think maybe the anticipation is a major part of the enjoyment of that of recreation. What do you think? Do you enjoy the anticipation of a vacation more? Do you plan your itinerary when you take a trip? Do you plan every step of it? Do you not plan? Do you just plan on getting up late? Are you looking forward to a sporting event? Are you looking forward to a family reunion? Even maybe a movie that's coming out, next year. I think we should really enjoy the anticipation. And I think there should be something to be said, and maybe I'll do a video on being in the moment and enjoying the moment. But right now, I'm just going to stick to anticipation. So let me know in the comments. What are you looking forward to? All right. I appreciate it. Bye.